the Cheesemonster, written by Justin Birch, illustrated by Sharon Harmer. Charlie and the Cheesemonster. Charlie was bored, so he went to find his dad. "Daddy, can we build a rocket, please?" asked Charlie. "Why not?" said his dad. They made one out of an old sled, bits from a bicycle, cardboard boxes, a plastic bottle, wire coat hangers, glue, and lots of sticky tape. Charlie's dad found a small motor, and when he pressed a button on it, it sounded like a rocket was going to take off. They painted the rocket red and then went inside for dinner. Just before bedtime, the paint was dry, so Charlie and his dad carried the rocket up to Charlie's bedroom. Charlie's dad had made Charlie a spaceman's helmet, and Charlie wore his helmet, his spaceman pajamas, and sat in the rocket for his bedtime story. Then Charlie's parents tucked him into bed and kissed him goodnight, and Charlie went to sleep. A breeze coming in through the open window woke Charlie up. He looked outside and saw stars and a full moon shining in the sky. Charlie's rocket glinted in the moonlight, so he put on his helmet and stepped inside. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! Charlie pressed the button on the motor. The noise started and grew louder, and the rocket began to move. It shot straight out of his open window. Whoosh! The rocket swerved upward and flew high over a tree and kept going. Charlie could see down in his garden and then his whole street. He shut his eyes and held on tight for a minute, and then he opened them. The rocket had risen higher. All Charlie could see was a big blue and green ball. He knew that that was planet Earth. He was a bit scared, but mostly curious, so he kept looking as the Earth grew smaller and smaller. Bang! There was a sudden jolt, and suddenly the rocket came to a stop. "Whoops!" shouted Charlie. He got up from the floor of the rocket where he had fallen. He stepped out of the rocket and looked around. The ground was a creamy white, and it felt bouncy. Charlie knelt down and dug his fingers into the surface. It smelled very familiar. It was his favorite food, cheddar cheese. He was on the moon, and it was really made of cheese. He took a bite. It was the loveliest cheese that he had ever eaten. He was about to have another bite when he heard a noise. He peered around the side of his rocket. A strange creature was grabbing huge chunks of cheese with its hands and stuffing them into its enormous mouth. It didn't look scary or unfriendly, so Charlie walked up to it and asked, "Is this the moon?" "Yes, this is the moon. What exactly are you?" said the strange creature, and it licked some cheese from its hand. I'm a boy," said Charlie. "A boy? A boy," said the creature. "What a strange boy creature you are. You're so small and pink." What are you then?" asked Charlie. "I'm a Cheesemonster," said the creature. "We eat lots of cheese. It's really tasty. You should try some." "But you're eating up all of the moon," Charlie blurted out. "That can't be a good thing. What happens when you've eaten the whole moon? Are you going to eat my planet too?" Charlie worried. The Cheesemonster laughed. "Run out? We can't run out of cheese. Come with me. You'll find this interesting." Charlie's new friend led him to the dark side of the moon. Charlie couldn't believe his eyes. He was looking at the biggest cow he had ever seen, which was being milked by 2 Cheesemonsters. "This is Millie, our cow. We milk her to make the cheese," said the Cheesemonster. "Let me explain the cycle of the moon's cheese to you. When we eat the cheese, the moon looks smaller. First we eat the top layer, and it kind of looks like someone has just taken a slice off the top. We keep eating, and it looks like a big bite has been taken out of the moon. We keep eating the cheese on the bright side of the moon, almost down to the very last slice, so the moon looks like a tiny little crescent. Then we take all the cheese we've made from the dark side and we put it back onto the bright side so the moon looks new again. Huh, so that's why we have a new moon every month, murmured Charlie. Charlie had lots of fun with the cheese monsters. They let him help make a gigantic block of cheese, and he wrote Charlie on the side. They put the block on the top layer of the moon so that he could see it at bedtime, and they promised not to eat it. Then they took him back to his rocket and admired it while he got ready to take off. Charlie counted down from 5 and he pressed the button on the motor. He looked out and waved at the cheese monsters. They all waved back and shouted, "Goodbye, boy!" The rocket zoomed through the air and the moon got smaller and smaller. And then there was a rush of noise and he flew back through his bedroom window and landed on the floor. Charlie climbed out of his rocket. He looked up at the big shining moon. He was sure it was a little smaller already. Yawning, Charlie climbed back into bed and fell asleep. The next morning the sun was shining and the moon could just be seen. Charlie grabbed his telescope from the shelf and focused in on the moon. In the middle of the moon there was a tiny black dot. Charlie tried refocusing, but his telescope wasn't strong enough. But he knew that if he could get a stronger telescope, he would see that the dot on the moon was really a name. His name, Charlie. Smiling, Charlie went downstairs for breakfast, and he had cheese on toast. The end.